Hi guys. I did my poetry assignment over animals. The first one I read was from Jack Prelutsky's book It's Raining Pigs and Noodles, and this one was called The World's Fastest Turtle. And this one, it's about the world's fastest turtle and the slowest horse, and they race, and the horse won because a horse is still a horse and a turtle is still a turtle. And this one was set up like a ballad. Another ballad from the same book is Noisy Noisy. This one's about when birds go south when they migrate and how they're so loud in the sky. He talks about it because they're so loud in the sky because they're complaining because they have to travel so far and they don't want to walk. Shel Silverstein is another poet who has several books. In Where the Sidewalk Ends, I found a couple. The first one is called The Toucan. It's about a poem about who can catch a toucan and what kind of goo you can stick to a toucan. And this one I looked up, and tongue twisters are actually a type of poem, and they're actually called shadow poetry. So I'm going to read this to you, hopefully without messing up. It's called The Toucan. Tell me, who can catch a toucan? Lou can. Just how few can ride the toucan? Toucan. What kind of goo can stick you to the toucan? Glue can. Who can write some more about the toucan? You can. So surprisingly, I didn't mess it up, but this is not my first time reading it. So another one in the same book is called I Won't Hatch. And this one is about a chick that does not want to hatch because it's scared of the outside world and it wants to stay in its shell where it's safe and warm. This one is a repetition poem because about every other line is I will not hatch, I will not hatch. From Song of the Water Boatman, Spring Splash Down. This one is an example of shaped poetry. It's when ducklings are following their mother out of the nest for the first time and then they jump into the pond. So how I have the word leaping on the page is how their leaping is actually wrote in the book, and the words look like they're leaping down the page just like the ducks leaped out of the nest. Another poem out of the same book is called Into the Mud. This one's another example of shaped poetry. There's painted turtles go deep into the mud and they say goodbye to the winter months to hibernate. And on this page, the words are written in the shape of a turtle when it's hibernating in the mud. This is another one by Jack Prelutsky, A Pizza the Size of the Sun. In this poem, it's about how possums are really good about playing possum and then being ignored by folks who walk by and they just lay on the ground and resemble a stone. So this one's written in the form of a couplet. The Walrus by John Gardner is an example of a narrative poem, and it's about a story that how walruses once used to live on land, but this old thoughtful walrus decided to move his family because the weather was getting bad and his family was getting chased out by fierce animals. So he got the idea to move to the water with the whales. And so throughout the story, it just talks about their journey across the land to get to the sea. This one's called Who by Eileen Fisher, and it was from the book Feathered Ones and Furry. And actually, I found this one to be interesting because Eric Carle was the illustrator for this. So this one I also looked up, and a riddle can also be a type of a poem. And I have the poem posted for you, but it's a riddle to see like what kind of home they're talking about, which it's a bird and a chick not wanting to hatch from an egg. Mary's Lamb, it's kind of remake, but when I read it in my head, it went with Mary Had a Little Lamb, the nursery rhyme that we all know. So it's a type of a lyric poem, and everyone knows the rhyme Mary Had a Little Lamb, and there's 3 verses of it for it there. This book was my favorite, The Scranimals, another book by Jack Prelutsky. I really, really like this book. I think it'd be super fun to use this to teach. And so this poem that I picked out was Potatoed. And it was part potato, part toad, who sits on the side of the road, and he doesn't do very much. He's obviously a make-believe character, and he has eyes on every side, and he has a warty hide. So this is an example of a couplet. And then all these animals on the cover have their own story inside the book, and obviously they're make-believe. And like this is a porcupine and a pineapple put together. So for my activity, I think it'd be really, really fun to have students make up their own characters or whatever that they want and then share it to the class. And the teacher would put it in a book for everyone to just kind of have their own creations put together. So it could be like half sport, like a half of a football head and half of a, I don't know, gorilla or something like that, and they could make their own poem over it and draw their own version, do their own illustrations for however they want it, and then we would make it into a book. So, and that's it.